Transgender woman who was denied access to female toilets at work has now won a case against the CCMA. 28-year-old Andre Taylor from Gugulethu says she was traumatized when told by the company's Human Resources Department to stop using the toilets. Let's get some reaction now from gender activist Kalo Canterbury, who joins us from Cape Town. Good afternoon to you, Kalo, and thank you very much for joining us. Could you give us some appreciation or understanding of how this person, how Andre might have felt?
Hi, how's it going?
Well, thank you.
I think that Andre has every right to be traumatized. It's roughly 1 in 4 transgender people that experience workplace bias in general, and I know that that rate is higher for transgender women and trans people of color. It's something that is quite violent, even though it might not be physical. It's violent to us against in a emotional and psychological context, so she has every right to be traumatized.
How does it normally manifest itself in the workplace? This was an official decision taken by the organization not to use toilets, yes. But I would imagine perhaps worse than that is just is conversation within earshot.
Yes, it's the gender discrimination, it's transgender discrimination, people misgendering you constantly, dead naming you, which is referring to you as the name that you were birthed with. It's passing transgender people over for promotions over other people in the workplace. It's exclusion in terms of workplace culture, in workplace events, and just an overall discrimination attitude towards trans people in the workplace. Yeah.
And why do you think it happens?
I think it happens just due to a lack of education and a lack of enforcement by the company or the employers. There really needs to be a culture of respect within all businesses when it comes to transgender issues and queer issues in general that affect the whole LGBTQIA community.
So typically then, when this discrimination is dished out, how do transgender people respond, or how should they respond?
Generally, how we respond, a lot of the time we don't have the support legally or from a community perspective to react in the appropriate way when that would be taken seriously. A lot of the times people often overlook our feelings and overlook how we react to situations. People don't take it seriously enough because it doesn't affect them directly. And I think that Andre was right to take legal action, and I'm very happy that she won and that she's got the support of her community, and she's changing how South Africans view the workplace for transgender people.
How important do you think this CCMA decision is then?
It's extremely important because before we weren't afforded these rights, and the discrimination was ongoing, the misogyny was ongoing, and the equality it just didn't seem to exist. I'm very happy that the CCMA has taken this action against this business, and hopefully we'll see more examples of this in the future, and hopefully we'll even see less instances, meaning that there is that culture being created where transgender people are treated with respect, with dignity, and as equals. So
in many ways you're suggesting a watershed case. This could give other transgender people perhaps a little more courage to also confront the discrimination that they're experiencing.
Yes, and I also hope that it sheds light on these situations for other people that work for companies that are cishet, that are just cisgender people, so they can use their voice to also support our issues and shed light on this in many more contexts. How do you think a more common understanding and better empathy then can be forged in the workplace? Like I said, it comes down to the culture of the workplace, the culture of respect that needs to be created. And again, a lot of ignorance and discrimination comes from a place of uneducation. So I believe firmly that employers and businesses should do their best to educate themselves and educate their employees on transgender issues, and to kind of be firm about the fact that they will not take discrimination, whether it's towards transgender people, whether it's towards disabled people, whether it's towards mentally ill people, any sort of person. Discrimination shouldn't be taken lightly.
And how do they go about doing that? Because for many organizations this might be difficult, uncomfortable, uncharted territory. That process of education in terms of being more sensitive, where's the starting point?
I think the starting point is to incorporate it first into policy, so that when people begin work at the company or are working at a company, they have to adhere to a certain policy that the company provides. And on top of that, things like workshops and gatherings of the employees, I think that is important to have regularly, so people can be updated on these issues, not just transgender issues, but any issues that affect employees of the company, and just to provide resources. They can reach out to various organizations such as Gender Dynamics, who will happily come in to educate them on proper workplace etiquette.
Just finally, as a result of this particular case, but others, not only in South Africa, but around the world, do you think then that transgender people's voice in this respect is perhaps getting a little louder? Are you taking a little more encouragement here?
I definitely feel that it is getting a little louder. We have a lot of very active transgender community members in South Africa and across the world. It obviously is it's very complicated in Africa, throughout Africa, based on our history as a continent. But I do believe that we've started to shed light on these issues on a global scale, and I'm looking forward to doing so myself and working with people in order to do that in the future.